The world seems to be on fire. Here's what growing up in a cult taught me about handling the end of the world. I mean, it feels like the world is on fire. There are politics, economic unrest, conflicts, so many things going on, including AI and the disruption of the workplace, that many of us are running around in a kind of panic and fear and thinking that everything might just destroy itself. And hey, I'm not saying that those fears are not well-founded and that there aren't things to be concerned about as we move at a faster and faster pace. Well, I grew up in a cult, and the end of the world was always around the corner. So it was always 1 to 3 years away for some reason. I don't understand. I was just a child. Don't blame me. But we'd lead up to these final days and, we'd think, okay, tomorrow's the day or today's the day. And as kids, we would eventually get exhausted, fall asleep, and then wake up and think, the world kind of looks the same. Everything is just carrying on. And then we would create meaning about what that meant. And so very often God had spared us, or, there was a very valid, logical reason for why the world didn't end that day. Now, I'm not going to get into that whole story, but it did give me a few perspective shifts that I now use when people are freaking out about all the things that are going on. Here's the 3 things that growing up in that environment kind of helped me to manage my own nervous system regulation, boost my own mental health, and allow me to live a good and well life, even within the context that we're in today. So here's 3 things. Number 1, this isn't pretty. I mean, this is unfortunate, but it's actually valid and true. There will always, if you look through history, there has always been greed, capitalism, power structures at play where certain people in power will take advantage of other people. And there are these conflicts and all sorts of things going on. We might even argue that there's been times in history that have been much worse than what we're seeing today, but this is in our pockets. And so the feeling that it's always on all the time is affecting our nervous systems and how we interact with the world in a bigger way than it ever has before. We can just see extremist thinking. Our algorithms are putting us into this black and white. You're either for us or against us. We're influenced by so many factors that are putting us into this perspective that is sticking to one side or another. And that's actually where some of the problem is. But what I learned is we can focus on what is in our control, and a hell of a lot of that is not in our control. And so what is in our control? It's how we think, how we nurture our brain, our soul, the creative pursuits, how we choose to interact with the world. All we have is our own integrity, our own communication style, and our ability to create narratives that have wider meaning and kind of cross-pollinate into different areas, because that allows us to take responsibility for a more balanced view. And I love getting in conversations with people these days who very, adamantly want to convince me of one side or the other. I mean, I don't know why it matters. And my voice is often the one that's in the middle, because I've seen where extremism can lead us. And so I will often say things like, I wonder what else might be true. I wonder what's in the middle. I wonder about these exceptions to the rule, and that maybe enough exceptions prove that many of us are kind of the exception, and that we shouldn't be in these places of extremist thinking, because we often become part of the problem. So there will always be these elements. How do we want to focus on the things that are in our control? Number 2, I mentioned my nervous system already and your nervous system, but your nervous system is your responsibility. Yes, the whole world can traumatize us and all these things can happen, and they did this to me and my workplace is unsafe because, but your nervous system is your responsibility. And that doesn't mean that for some of us, we don't have more intense triggers around certain things, but I would urge you to do the work, to learn about, listening to your own body and the information and symptoms that are telling you that you might be misaligned in an environment, that you might need something else in order to help you thrive. The more we can take responsibility for regulation, the more we can interact, see the world for what it is, and interact from a different place. So as my first book is titled, Begin With You. It has to start with us and be the change you wish to see in the world. All those cliches for a reason, because they have this sound core of wisdom. So my nervous system is my responsibility. That's the place that I start from, and then focus on what's in my control. And then number 3, unpopular opinion, but life is beautiful. Sorry, what now? I thought the world was going to end. Life is beautiful. When I was researching my book on digital well-being, I discovered that bad news travels 6 times faster than good news. And no wonder we're all frazzled with outrage news and clickbait and just thinking that everything is going on. Where you choose to spend your attention is what you're going to see more of. So I'm certainly not saying ignore the causes and the places where you have some control or influence and can make a difference, but I am saying that the most important thing I can do is protect my brain from influence and nurture the skill of critical thinking and actually noticing in gratitude all the beautiful things that do exist in the world that do make life wonderful. I think the most radical act these days for me as a speaker and the work that I do, but also with my family and my friends, is to be an optimist and to actually choose to bring in the concepts in the world that are actually good and can bring in the what if something went well, what if something goes right, and what if we just shifted our perspective and worked together to focus on what's in our control, regulate our nervous system, support each other. Co-regulating nervous systems in community is essential to then creating that kind of activism that we need that's coming from a positive place, not a traumatized place. I believe that together we can build meaning and hope, no matter what the world is saying around us. So make your choice. Who do you want to be in the world? This is what I've learned through living in a cult, so one of the most toxic environments where influence and, the physical algorithms of extremism have destroyed so many lives. And yet, through the ashes, we can build something meaningful and good. So make your choice. What side are you going to be on? The side that supports change or the side that adds to the chaos?